Thank you very much. Good morning, Manchester. How are we feeling? Okay, you're eating cake. That's good. Is that cake sweets? Come on, how are we feeling? Come on. Come on. This is an in-house recruitment event. We're all recruiters. We're all looking to get there and hire as many people as we possibly can. Glad to see you've all had your caffeine today, like me. That's very good. My name's Mark Taylor, and I'm the CEO of a business called Automated Analytics, which we have a platform called Talent Track. That's me when I had a suntan. Haven't been on holiday for some time, been busy coding. That's my excuse. So I'm very passionate about source reporting because it's really been the secret to my career. I used to work at Hilton Hotels, used to be the marketing director, used to work at Virgin, and I worked at Halfords. Not on the shop floor, I was commercial director, I promise you, so I can't fix your bike, I'm afraid. But essentially, I started out in marketing. And what I realized was that if I could actually measure the outcome of my marketing and track the source of all of my marketing, then I could optimize my marketing to deliver more sales. And it pretty much worked for 10 years. I did quite well. And the reason I got involved in recruitment was you've got exactly that same challenge within recruitment. So how do you track your application right the way through to hire so that you can then optimize your advertising spend to deliver more hires rather than just delivering more applications? Simple as that. So I'm going to take you through a case study today on a company called Helping Hands. Now, before I do that, just want to share something with you. 2 years ago, I was talking to one of the Ferrari technicians. Those of you that know me know that I'm a big Formula One fan, and this is my blatant attempt to get Formula One into my presentation. But basically, Ferrari gather over 1,000 points of data per second every time the car goes around the track. Sounds brilliant, doesn't it? Most businesses, the businesses you work in, track loads and loads of data. But if you can't analyze it, what's the point in generating that data? And when I look at recruitment, not being able to track your source to hire, how can you optimize your media? How can you make your recruitment better? How can you hire more of the people that you want to hire rather than generate applications from people that you're never going to hire, you're never going to proceed through to interview? So I'm going to present to you a case study from Helping Hands. So Helping Hands are actually the largest private domiciliary care provider in the UK. What's domiciliary care? It's basically care in the home, private care. Now, during the pandemic, they did very, very well. A lot of people out of retail moved into healthcare and therefore didn't really have a recruitment problem. Came out of the pandemic, a lot of people went back into retail. Suddenly they had a lot of contract demand, people wanting domiciliary care, but not enough people to actually fulfill the contract hours that they had. So they had quite a unique issue, and when I say unique issue, it's the same issue for healthcare pretty much throughout the UK. Now, what you had at Helping Hands is 3 people. Okay, you had Beth. Beth was responsible for Indeed spend, Google spend, all the application generation. And what Beth wanted to know is, what was her return on investment? So I have a budget. Am I spending it effectively? Am I getting the best return on investment I can? Am I generating as many hires as the business needs? You then had Mark, who's the marketing director. And at Helping Hands, it was actually the marketing director that looks after recruitment, which we're starting to see a little bit at the moment. And he was very much, well, I'm the budget holder. I've got £100,000 to spend a month. Where do I spend it? Where am I getting my best return on investment? And then finally, you had Andy, who's the CEO, and he just wanted to know, well, I just want to know what works, what doesn't work. I just want to know that recruitment's fixed, or I just want to know recruitment's working. So within the business, you had 3 very, very different aspects in terms of what they were looking to get out of recruitment marketing. But it wasn't just, if you like, what the budget holders wanted. The big issue was the pressure from their branches. So they've got 86 branches. They employ over 5,000 people. And their issue was they were getting a lot of pressure from branches, so they can't employ anybody internationally, but they were getting loads of international applications. They were getting loads of duplicate applications going into their ATS, and they were using Access Recruit, which is a great ATS platform, but they were getting a lot of pressure from the branches. They couldn't accurately report the sourcing, so they could see, right, we've generated an application from one click apply Indeed, but they could not track that right the way through to hire. And then finally, they couldn't optimize their media because they weren't linking the whole journey together. So they were getting a lot of pressure from the operation of, look, we just want more applications that are better quality so that we can actually employ more people. Really, the types of things that we were hearing was they were spending a lot of time trying to prove that recruitment worked. They wanted to make decisions based on data rather than hearsay because they'd regularly get, well, why aren't we advertising on Indeed? Why aren't we advertising on Google? Whereas actually what they wanted to do was found everything on data so they could make it a more consistent strategy. They wanted to use AI, artificial intelligence, to do the heavy lifting. So, how can we sift applications so we can get rid of the stuff that we don't want, like duplicates? How can we stop the applications that we don't want going into our ATS before they get there? And then finally, they just want an easier life, which I think is what we all want, right? Because recruitment is not easy. It's difficult. As you've heard from previous speakers, it's a suppressed market. There's one job for every unemployed person, so our jobs just suddenly got a lot more difficult. Whenever we work with a client, we always do an audit first. So on the left-hand side is what they were doing, and on the right-hand side is what we suggested. So they weren't optimizing their job roles. So they'd send a job role live, and they'd leave it for 2 years. Now, as all of you know, Indeed's quality guidelines, you can refresh your job after 21 days. You can't do it before that, otherwise you breach their quality guidelines, which means you'll be set to sponsored or you'll be set to nowhere, so your jobs won't organically list. So one of the things that we suggest is we'll optimize that for you. We'll let AI do the heavy lifting, and every 21 days we'll just auto-refresh your job post so that you don't have to do that. Things like they had one-click apply on Indeed live, but they weren't enabling programmatic bidding, which I'm going to show you in a second how it works. But also, they didn't have organic sources live. They weren't using niche job boards. Their career site had a 6-step process. They didn't use online chat to convert people into applications. So lots of areas that they could improve on quite easily. And as you can see, they were spending 100 grand a month, but we actually went back to them with we think you only need to spend 50K, but we can get you a 25% improvement on hires. So how do we do this? First thing is we implemented programmatic bidding. Now, you've heard programmatic bidding, I'm sure. What actually is it? When you post on Indeed, your posting starts, if you're doing it manually, or if you're not using a feed, starts at 12:01. You get loads and loads of clicks, or as they've just moved to started apps. And as soon as that budget runs out, your advert stops. But the problem you've got is, as you can see here, the darker the segment, the more applications were generated during that time frame. And their budget was generally running out before midday. But as you can see, the majority of the time, the good hires were being generated between 12 and 4. So using a programmatic bidding model immediately improved their volume of applications because they were using their advertising budget when they were more likely to generate an application. The way our programmatic bidding is set up is actually set up to drive the cost per application as low as we can possibly get it. So taking it from £5 an application down to £1.55p, that's what our programmatic bidding tool is there to do. So straight away, just by getting the programmatics right, they saw an uplift in applications. Now, the next thing, and this is just an example of their dashboard, you can see here that Indeed Sponsored generated 1,279 apps. Of those, 1,100 actually ended up in their ATS. So what we did for their applications was apply what we call an auto filter. So any duplicate apps, anybody that was outside of the UK, because they can't employ them, and there were a couple of other criteria that they wanted, rather than sending everything into the ATS, we just put in actually the type of application that they wanted. So straight away, without getting any feedback from the client, we can see the quality of different job boards so that we can include that in our programmatic bidding model. So yeah, it's great to get higher data. It takes about 6 weeks to get that data. But if we can generate data at the start on conversion, it means that the programmatic model can work faster, quicker, better. So you can see here that Indeed Organic was driving about half of what Indeed Sponsored was. You can also see that live chat, something they'd never done before, generated, I think it was 1,000 applications, of which 252 went in. So quite a high rejection ratio, but free. So for us, it's not just about spending money, it's about doing as much organically and then topping up with sponsored, but without knowing this level of detail, where do you start, right? So that was December. So you can see here we've got a 14% rejection ratio. It's costing us £5.41 for an application, a quality application. You can see here we've got a 42% rejection ratio, and it's costing about £10.12 per application. Okay? We get to April, you can see those figures have dropped massively. So their actual reduction in cost per application from Indeed dropped by 600%. They won't actually allow me to give you the specific number, but if you're really good at maths, I'm sure you'll be able to work out what that price is. So you can see here with Indeed Sponsored that their cost per application dropped down. The rejection ratio went up slightly, but because we were getting 5 times the amount of volume compared to the cost, it worked for them. You can see here on LinkedIn, who'd have thought LinkedIn worked for carers, right? I never knew, but it did. It started to drive, and as you can see there, it's the 5th largest channel for driving carers, with only a 32% rejection rate, but a cost reduction of 233% on what they were paying previously. So it's not just about generating more volume, it's about generating more volume for a cheaper price, because what's that going to affect? Your cost per hire. And that's why we're all in business, right? Is we want to get as low a cost per hire and as high as conversion as we can possibly get. So when you compare January to April, I was going to show you December, but I thought, you'd all say December's the easy month. January's the hard one because that's when you've got lots of competition. When you look at the hires, we'd said that we'd give them a 25% increase in hires. We actually gave them a 26.7% increase. And for the first time in 4 years, as Mark Bevins said, Talent Tracker fixed recruitment. And so that's what we tend to find with a lot of our clients is because you've got that visibility, because our platform works in real time, it's very, very easy for you guys to spot the trends, spot the things that you need to change to get that uplift in performance that you're looking for. Things that we found out we weren't expecting. So, Indeed has moved to cost per started app because that's what they can measure. We actually saw an 11% reduction in cost per completed app when they launched it. Don't know why. Don't know why that happened. I was concerned that Indeed were going to use this as an opportunity to actually monetize one-click apply a lot more, but actually it drove a cost reduction of 11%. 26% of their hires came from organic sources they weren't using, so Bing, Google, Find a Job, which is the government search. So there's a lot of free opportunities, organic search that you guys can plug into your campaign to drive those hires. And at 26% of mix, that's quite a lot to consider, quite a lot to take on board. And then, as I mentioned, LinkedIn actually worked for finding carers. Where they basically, how this happened was they had some leftover budget with LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I don't know if they're here, but they are ridiculously expensive, even more expensive than Indeed. And we were really unsure whether LinkedIn would work, but look, we had some available budget. The client wanted to use it, they'd already signed the contract. So they wanted to make sure that they were utilizing that as much as possible. Now, the great thing is, because we're a LinkedIn partner, you don't have to sponsor roles. A bit like Indeed, you can get organic listings as well as sponsored. We sponsored a few roles, could start to see the immediate impact within a couple of hours of going live because the platform's real time. And actually what we're now finding is LinkedIn is a very, very good source for carers, which, we have a number of different care clients. No one had actually used LinkedIn before. So again, whenever we enter into a relationship with a client, where we start, where we get to, and where we end, often it's completely different, but it's all based on data, which is absolutely key. Takes away all of that, well, I do this, I do that, I think this, I think that. Whenever you walk into a boardroom and you've got data behind you, very, very easy to win the argument. So if you're selecting an AI tool and you want to let automation do the heavy lifting, there's kind of 4 things that I'd recommend if you're going to select a partner. So one is making sure you've got source to hire analytics. Without knowing your source to hire analytics, how are you going to know what your return on investment is? How are you going to know what media channel works for you? There's lots of media channels out there that will generate lots and lots of applications, but if you're getting feedback from the operation, we get lots of applications, we're not hiring anybody, that's because you need to fix that source to hire. And obviously, as you've seen, there are some sources that will drive a lot of applications and no hires. That's where that waste advertising spend is. So if you can fix that source to hire, you're partly on your way to solving your recruitment challenge. Next thing is it's having a solution that adds automatic campaign management, so refreshing of jobs automatically, using AI to choose the right job advert at the right time to go to the right person to increase conversion. All of those things are now available to you. Even though Elon Musk thinks that AI is a bad thing, AI is a prediction model at the end of the day. It just predicts what we think is going to be the best job advert, what's the best opening line, what's the best title. And so therefore, finding a solution that gives you that automatic campaign management takes a lot of those manual processes away that you guys have to do and just streamlines your role. The other thing is your media strategy. We're an Indeed Alliance partner. We're only one of 13 in the UK, 10 in the States. A lot of people come to us and say, I don't want to spend any money on Indeed, or I want to reduce my spend on Indeed. You don't. You just want to optimize your spend on Indeed is what you need to do. They're the world's largest job board. I really wish they weren't, but I took a decision as a business owner that actually I'd rather get as close as I can to the biggest job board in the world than be at arm's length. We get a lot of information, a lot of insight from them. And for us, most clients, in fact, I'm yet to find a client where it's not at least 50% of their hires come from Indeed. It's just they're expensive, they are interesting to work with, and it's finding an alliance partner like us who can navigate the way through to get you the best return on investment. But it's also making sure you're using all the organic sources that you can. Why pay for traffic when you can get it from free, from Google or from Bing? And again, it's choosing a partner that can give you those additional channels so that you can focus on niche and focus on those job boards that really drive those hires for you is important. And the final thing is programmatic bidding. There are lots of programmatic bidding models out there at the moment. We've developed ours with Sheffield University. We're actually based in the People's Republic of Yorkshire. I realise I'm in Lancashire and have just said that. Realise that, don't kill me yet. But there's lots of things you can get AI to do. We focused on our platform delivering a higher volume of applications for a cheaper price and focusing on that higher conversion data so that we generate more applications that you actually end up hiring. Other models do other things, but we've worked specifically with Sheffield University on developing this because we've so far found that it drives the best value for the client. At the end of the day, if we can get applications for 55p, why should we be charging you 20 quid? You should get them for 55p. Simple as that. So all in all, when you're looking for a partner to help you with your talent acquisition strategy, if you're going to take 4 things away from today, it's finding a partner that gives you this range of capability, because that's what will have a significant impact on your talent acquisition strategy. And thank you very much for your time. The bad news is I've got 3 of my staff at the back there. One is an ex-Huddersfield player who scored the winning goal in the 1997 final, I think it was. We've also got an ex-contestant from Love Island, Freddie, and then we've also got a non-league football goalkeeper in Nick. So please come and see us at the stand. Happy to take any questions.
Big round of applause first, though.